This is Colombia, a very beautiful country. When I wondered what is behind so much beauty, I discovered something I hadn't seen before. I understood why the Caribbean is called the Great Caribbean, because in addition to beautiful beaches and 7-colored seas, it has a Sierra Nevada. Here, your itinerary doesn't begin with a formal speech, but with the sound of the sea, with the smell of coffee, or with bird songs. Here, your itinerary doesn't come to an end, because the excitement never ends. This is another kind of beauty, a new beauty that invites us to protect it, to preserve it, a beauty that endures. Colombia, the country of beauty.
Hey there everyone, I'm Don, Professor Goway, and welcome to the GowayPro Travel Tales Podcast. Travel far and travel often. Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the GowayPro Travel Tales Podcast series. I was just mentioning to our guests here that I'm actually in Mexico, which is why you see the background. This is my living room of where I am. To my left is the Pacific Ocean and the beach. So I'm in a very comfortable work from home environment at the moment. So I'm in the Latin vibe being in Mexico, but we're not talking about Mexico. We're here to talk about Colombia. And my two guests today are Brendan Rayment, who is the commercial director of Colombia 57, who is our in-country partner for Colombia, and also Maria Jose Silvva, who is the leisure director for ProColombia, which is the tourism authority for Colombia. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Don.
Okay, so as we get going, you'll hear that my accent is Australian in Mexico, currently living in Canada. Brendan, we did a webinar probably about 6 weeks ago, and the first thing you made very clear is that you are, while you live in Colombia, you are not Colombian. Where are you from originally?
I was born in England, near Oxford, to Irish parents.
And your travels took you to Colombia at some stage. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you met a local Colombian woman. One thing led to another, and now you are a permanent Colombian.
Yeah, that's correct. I spent most of my life as a bit of a nomad, living in different countries around the world, including in Latin America. And always planned to go back, but romance took me back sooner than I had planned. And also, then I had a second romance, a very profound one, with the country. And like many foreigners who do arrive in Colombia, the reality is such an incredible surprise. And we become intoxicated and we stay. And I am one of those.
Yeah, you're one of those. So how long have you been in Colombia or involved with Colombia, or both?
20 years involved since, well, a little bit longer when I first went there, but 20 years since we founded the company, and I've lived full-time in Colombia for the last 15 years.
Right. So,
and I am now a Colombian citizen, naturalized, so I've committed myself forever.
Wholly and solely. Well, congratulations
Yes.
on that. Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that because accents may be a giveaway, but it takes nothing away from Brendan and his company's expertise. We've been working with Colombia 57 for a while now, and we rely upon them, obviously, for our on-ground delivery of services down there. So, Maria Jose Silvva, which we will now go forward and pronounce, or call you Maria, you are the leisure director of ProColombia. So can you give us a quick background of how you got involved with the tourism board, ProColombia, and just a brief background. I would assume that you are Colombian by birth?
Yes, I'm Colombian by birth. I'm based in Bogota. I'm at this moment in Bogota. And I've been working here for almost 20 years, but in the tourism sector, 7 years. And I'm passionate for tourism. I love tourism. I love my country. I love working with companies as Brendan's company, uniting the offer, the demand, showing our beauty. So we are ready here to expose how we work and how to bring more Canadians to our country.
Wonderful. And again, we are talking to both our US and Canadian market out there. So if we do mention Canada and not US or vice versa, it is the information today is for everyone out there. So our focus today is going to be on probably areas that most people may not have heard about or may not think about for Colombia, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I just want to broach two subjects first, because it may be at the top of concerns either by the agents listening to us today or the clients that are asking about trips into Latin America, and particularly into Colombia. I'll throw it to either of you to answer, or you both can answer from your respective worlds of tourism. Colombia, safety. I know the answer, but please let our audience know that Colombia is a perfectly safe country to travel to. Yes.
In my turn, yes, Colombia is a Pacific place today. We have had, of course, a long past, but at this moment we have a massive tourism. We have had the best tourism year last year, with almost 7 million of non-visitors, an increase from 50% from 2023. And we are in the top of mind of every visitor in the world. So today is safe, and we are working to change that perception, because reality is very different.
And Brendan, from your side of the world?
I think the record speaks for itself. In 20 years of operations, we have never had any of our clients suffer from any, insecurity or situations that people might think would occur in Colombia. Personally, I live a very safe and quiet life, and I think the comment we actually get most from clients who come to Colombia on their vacations is that they feel safer in Colombia many times than they feel in their home countries. And Colombian people are very curious about foreign cultures. They love visitors, and they make sure that the visitors to Colombia are safe and have a great time and are made to feel welcome. And I think that goes a long way in reassuring people. But yes, it is a stain on our reputation, but the reality is very different. And I think it strikes people very much when they come here. And also the authorities here. The police are very nice here. And they're quite sweet, and they'll talk to people and help people out, and not like in other countries, including the one I come from, where they're downright rude and aggressive at times. So it is a pleasant surprise for most of us coming from overseas.
Yeah, and I'd back that up, even though my experience it has been somewhat recent, but also when I was a tour guide down there, probably deeper in the times of troubles, we never felt, myself, my groups never felt unsafe. In fact, when asked about countries around the world, it's often the countries that have the reputation that are the most friendly. And that would, like Iran, Pakistan, and Colombia in my times of travel, were the most open, the most friendliest of all. Not any other countries were not, but it was just, again, surprising how welcoming it was back then. And I guess the point is that was history. That was then, this is now. So all agents and your clients, put that fear to rest. There is no fear to travel to Colombia. It's perfectly safe, very, very welcoming, very well structured, and we'll get into all that now. Again, before we get off into the lesser known things about Colombia, Brendan, what is the typical first trip? The I guess all the known, well, not all, the known cities that most people would do on a first trip.
Generally tends to be Bogota, because that's where most of the international flights are arriving into. But increasingly, there are international flights from North America into Medellin and Cartagena and Cali. But yes, Bogota, the coffee region, which is split into 3 departments, but mainly they go to Pereira Airport and then stay in a country hotel. Medellin, which when I first came here, it was hard to sell Medellin. Now it's like everyone wants to come to Medellin, and Cartagena. within a sort of standard 7-night itinerary. But there are many variations on that, and it's interesting the amount of first-time visitors that come. And like my dad worked in the oil business in Barranca Bermeja, and therefore I'd like to go there. And then you have people who want to go to Santa Marta and Tirona, and nature is their thing, so they don't want too many urban experiences. It's a very mixed bag, to be honest with you, but I would say that's the classic Bogota, Coffee Region, Medellin, and Cartagena.
Yeah, and that's my point. That's probably what most agents will experience as their first inquiry from a client, or would probably put forth as a first type of trip to Colombia, those sort of the big reasons. But we're here to talk about, we will touch on those areas as well, of course, but more sort of the other aspects of Colombia that people may not be aware of. And one that Brendan's already touched on there was some wildlife and some adventure stuff around sort of like the Tirona area. Is Colombia on par with its neighbors when it comes to adventure travel and nature experiences? I'll throw that one to Maria. So like if someone's looking at Ecuador in the Amazon or Peru in the Amazon, and of course the Inca Trail for trekking, Colombia has equal opportunity, so to speak, when it comes to that type of experience?
I would like to add first to the Brendan answer. We also have a promotion strategy that is known as 6 Colombian regions. Mm-hmm. We divide our country in 6 regions. The Greater Caribbean, that is in the northern part. The Pacific, we have 2 access to seas, the Pacific and the Atlantic Sea. The Western and the Eastern Andes. Also the Massif and the south part of our country, and the Amazon and Orinoco region. So we have quite offer completely different experiences. I said that is 6 countries into one. So besides that, Cartagena, Bogota, the coffee region, Medellin are the most visited regions. We are trying to promote other regions. So we can have, as I said, 6 regions, like 6 countries into one. We have a lot of cultural experiences, also nature experiences in all the regions I mentioned. For example, we can see whales in the Choco region that is in the Pacific. Also, we can explore ruins in San Agustin that is in the Massif, or riding horseback and the plains that is in the Llanos or the Orinoquia and Amazonia. And the Amazonia, we have a joint mixture of cultures, because we have the equator, it's mixed with Ecuador, Peru, and Brazil, and we have that we share that biodiverse spot in the world. And I said, comparative to the country that you mentioned, we have a lot more to offer. We are trying to show all this bondage that we are promoting in our 6 regions, to have this like a matter to the tourist to take in that advantages and visit our country. So that is our main strategy for promoting international.
Yeah, it's important for agents out to remember this too, because when clients look to some of the other Latin countries like the Peru, Ecuador's, one of the big selling points is you can do Machu Picchu and the Amazon. You can do the Galapagos and the Amazon and the Andes. And here you find in Colombia, you have similar multiple opportunities. So you can do the Amazon, which has been pointed out by Maria and Brendan. You have 2 oceans, which other countries do not have. You have the Andes as well. And you have some amazing trekking as well. And then you have the Orinoco, which those other countries do not have at all. So the diversity and the opportunities abound in Colombia. So Brendan, can you expand on maybe some of the things I just touched on there in regards to like a counter to the Inca Trail, where you have the Lost City, we have Andean experiences, you have the Orinoco, etc. So can you expand on a sort of a real life situation of what clients can do in those areas?
Yeah, I mean, I will obviously agree that Colombia is the most biodiverse country per square meter on the planet, and that makes a huge difference. And also, tourism infrastructure here has developed later than in our neighboring countries, such as Peru and Ecuador. And actually, for example, in the Amazon, the experience is a lot more real. It is less developed. It is a lot more authentic, and we have now some very nice small lodges which are sustainably run with the local communities, and we're able to involve interactions with local indigenous communities. Something else
Brendan,
that this
can I just
diversity brings.
Can I sorry to interrupt there? You mentioned that it's less developed. Is that because of the troubles back in the day? That because less people were going there, development was slower, or is it just because the region has been slower to develop compared to the rest of the country?
It is really because international tourism to Colombia 20 years ago. It was for the very brave.
Yeah.
If you like, and there were troubles in areas where now there are no longer troubles, and there is a peaceful existence, and therefore it has allowed people to invest, to have confidence in the future. And but what it brings is there was an article a couple of years ago. I remember reading it. The Colombian Amazon is the most virgin and underdeveloped of all the other countries that have Amazon, because they have had tourism a lot longer. So they have a lot longer history of construction and things like that, which has not happened. And also, I think tourism coming to Colombia has come at the right time, at a time when there has been a consciousness growing about sustainability. And that we need to work in harmony with the nature and with local communities. And that has made a huge difference to the way tourism has developed here in Colombia.
So again, I jumped in you before as you were discussing some of the things you can do there, and you were touching on some of the cultural experiences that can be had. Can you just sort of expand on that a bit more?
Yes, and not only in the Amazon, this happens. And we are able to arrange this in various different parts of Colombia with different indigenous communities, where people can enter the community and meet with different members of those communities and learn an awful lot about their culture through music, very much through food. It's one of the greatest accesses to knowing cultures is through food, through how they earn their living. Often, for example, with the Zenu indigenous community in Córdoba, we are bringing people there to learn how they make the iconic sombrero volteado, which is the Colombian sombrero. Famous, and you can see the Colombian Olympic team always wear them when they come out in the parade at the beginning of the Olympic Games as a reference point. In La Guajira, the northernmost desert in South America, the Wayuu indigenous community make the most stunning, beautifully colored bags and hammocks, and very high quality. And learn about their dancing and how they eat. Goats are very important to them, and they eat a lot of goat and distilled sugarcane juice as well. And so those kind of interactions last with people for the rest of their lives, and make a huge impression. And the diversity of those different experiences. If you have one of those experiences in the Amazon, and then later on in your trip, you're in the desert in the north, I mean, you just think sometimes, am I in the same country still? It is quite phenomenal, that diversity and difference, and what the impression it leaves on people.
So you've mentioned a desert. We've mentioned the Amazon, the Andes as well. Maria, what are some of the other hidden gems of Colombia that people may not be aware of that they could work into an itinerary?
I would like to say some numbers following the answers of Brendan. Colombia is a biodiversity superpower. We have a big responsibility of preserving that biodiversity. And we have numbers at the 10% of the biodiversity of the world. The country has 314 types of ecosystems, access to oceans, as I already said, ranks 6 in water sources worldwide, and is among the 15 countries with the largest forest cover, of course, because of the Amazon, but also because of the Pacific region. We have 1,327 protected areas, covering 15% of our country. and 57 indigenous and 3 Afro-descendant communities that are actively participating in tourism activities. We have 9 UNESCO World Heritage Declarations, and it makes combined culture and diversity and natural diversity. And in the terms of hidden gems or authentic gems that beyond Cartagena or Bogota that you are mentioned, for example, the Tatacoa desert is another desert that we are promoting. It's in the middle part, in the massive region specifically. The one that Brendan mentioned that is in the Guajira part, that is in the northern part of the country. Also, San Agustin, that is a germ that is also hidden for many people, but it's very unique. You mentioned also, John, the Inca Trail. We have our own trail that is the Camino de Yuna, is in the northern part of the country. And of course, in the Pacific region, all the nature and biodiverse that we are promoting is also an authentic part of our country.
So, Maria, let me ask you this. Brendan mentioned the cultural interactions that can be had. You've mentioned it in your listing of statistics there. I would assume that ProColombia is very active in working with local communities to help them bring tourism to their respective parts of Colombia. So, again, back to my original question to Brendan, cultural tourism, I would assume, is a priority for ProColombia.
Yes, it's a priority, community tourism and cultural tourism. We train the companies in Colombia, we train the experiences, we try to prepare them for international purposes, and we do events for joining the offer and demand of prepared offer that we prepared. So, of course, community tourism and cultural tourism is things that we promote, definitely.
Yep, I had a conversation with a gentleman from an organization called Project Rhino, which is obviously looking after and preserving the rhino in Southern Africa. And key to his survivability as an organization, in turn, the rhinos, was having the local communities invest in and see the importance of tourism and the protection of. So it's a very common angle to take for governments these days to ensure that local communities see the returns and see the benefits from tourism. Obviously, it sounds like Colombia is definitely, or that I should say Colombians are buying into that aspect with all the amazing cultural opportunities and experiences that are out there. Brendan, there was actually something Maria mentioned.
I want to add something, Don. Sorry, no. We are one of the 12 countries in the world that have dedicated sustainability policy. So that policy is made by our Vice Minister of Tourism, but all the industry has 2030 goals for making our country more sustainable. So I think that's important to add.
As a government body, ProColombia, Brendan, are those dictates that come from ProColombia, the tourism board, are they dictates down to you as an operator that you must follow or you're encouraged to follow? Can you let our listeners know what your mandate is from a legal point of view to sort of adhere to government set dictates on sustainability?
First of all, I'd like to say that ProColombia are a fantastic organization and have been a huge help to us as a business growing in Colombia, both here inside the country and overseas in their various offices around the world. And they are, I wouldn't say they're dictates. I mean, obviously, if a law is passed, then we have to comply. But really, in terms of sustainability, we want to be there. It's not a case of that. We understand that is vital to how tourism develops in Colombia. If we do not have a sustainable working environment, internally within our company, but also with all the various different communities, the guides, transport companies, everybody, and within the chain or the network. We're not going to survive. And I've worked for all of my life in tourism, and including in horribly overdeveloped resorts in Spain, such as Benidorm and Magaluf when I was very young. And I, have seen what happens when tourism is not sustainable. And therefore, we willingly comply with the encouraging work of ProColombia and other, government entities and non-government entities in making our industry far more sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's something you mentioned there about certain countries, areas, cities within being overrun with tourism these days, and it's becoming a bigger issue that we are seeing when clients are contacting us, agents are contacting us, wanting to get away from the big sites of the world. And that's anything from Latin America to Europe, everything else. So this also positions Colombia as a really good alternative for a quieter destination in comparison to its neighbors and or other international destinations. Brendan, a couple of things I'd like to just ask you to expand on. Something Maria brought up when she was talking about certain areas, sort of the hidden gems. One was, or is, San Agustin, and another one that I went to is Tierra Dentro. I went to both of these forever ago when I was guiding. They were truly, back in the day, very difficult to get to. You had to basically drive in, which is what we did. But I understand that they've become, again, relative, more popular, easier, accessible. But Brenda, can you expand on their attractions and why they are becoming more and more popular?
I smiled when you asked Maria about the hidden gems because we have so many.
Yeah.
It's such a long list, and many of them are so hidden that we don't know about them yet, which is another thing. 20 years of being in Colombia, and I arrive places sometimes, I'm like, oh wow, even here in Medellin, a neighborhood, and it's like I haven't been there before, but wow, this is really interesting and curious. But San Agustin has become more and more accessible. Generally, we fly people in from Bogota to Neiva. There's also a smaller airport in Pitalito, and where there are less flights. And the attraction of those, both Tierra Dentro and San Agustin, is the pre-Columbian culture.
Yeah.
So the culture before the Europeans arrived, and the tombs, the architecture, set in the most stunningly beautiful countryside you will find on this planet. And, a beautiful, serene, quiet area where you can really contemplate an ancient culture, a very sophisticated culture as well, that was around before us Europeans got our hands involved in the continent. So those are the real draws of those two areas. In Tierra Dentro is slightly more complex to get to than San Agustin. But both are fascinating places, and for those people who really have an interest in that culture and history, then it's definitely worth a visit to.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend...
And it's also, near to Tatacoa Desert,
yep,
which is a second desert in Colombia, and it can be combined very easily, San Agustin, with a visit to Tatacoa, and one of the best places in the country to see the night sky and the stars as well.
Oh, there you go. There's another thing, seeing the night sky. My memories of San Agustin were one of our favorite stops when we were driving through Colombia, because it was that sort of true remoteness. It was an interesting drive to get there through via Popayan and a national park. I can't think of its name at the moment, to get into there. But what I found also, other than the pre-Columbian history, which is literally in your face because it's an open-air museum with many stelae and statues all around, you can ride off into the neighbouring farmland to see more of them, four-wheel drive trekking if you wish as well. But the town itself, to me, was, and you guys are both Colombian, you can correct me on this, was a microcosm of rural Colombia. It had the sort of Colombian cowboys with their cowboy boots and their machetes, tending to their farms, their cattle, etc. It was just this real insight, again, a probably a more modern cultural insight into modern rural Colombia. Is that does San Agustin still hold that sort of spirit to this day?
Yes, I think it's authentic. The Colombian authentic. Is more connected today because we have the Bogota flight to Pitalito, that is the city closer to San Agustin, that is almost 30 minutes from to San Agustin. But I think it's authentic, the essential part of the Colombian. And also it's a very important coffee region at this moment. So it's another attractive, the Huila region with a high quality coffee. So you can also combine that cultural coffee with its ancient statues and parks. Also, the biodiversity is a good place to go.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Bird watching also.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know the region was coffee. So we do get a lot of requests for Colombia for coffee. So that's a very good, again, alternative than the usual areas. To go off into San Agustin, I think you'd find that a real big bang for your buck, literally, to get away from some more mainstream areas. Oh, that's there you go. Learn something new every day. Brendan, the region of Llanos, can you expand on that one as well, please?
It's amazing. I mean, that really is, for many people, a hidden gem. Much of Colombia is very mountainous, and the Los Llanos Orientales are the plains which flow out sort of east from Bogota. They actually cross over into our neighboring country of Venezuela, and it is the home of Colombia's real cowboy culture. You know, the food there, the meat particularly, is absolutely mouth-wateringly delicious. The sunsets are incredible. The nature, the diversity of the nature, the meandering rivers, the music. They have their own particular form of style and culture of music and dancing, and coneo, where they catch the cows riding on horses at great speed, catching the cows by their tails and flipping them over. It is a stunning place and is now much better connected to the rest of the country. And we're frequently sending people to Los Llanos, and there are a number of different lodges and hotels. There are local guides, and you know, the local community take great pleasure in taking people out on what we call safaris, which they can do on horseback or they can do in 4x4s. And go through the countryside, seeing all the different aspects of what I've just mentioned. And I think, Don, this is a point to mention, how many of these places are more accessible now. The infrastructure in Colombia has improved immensely over the last 20 years, really. And, you know, with new roads opening up, double-lane highways, tunnels being built to reduce time, and the air infrastructure here is incredible. Colombia is the home of the first airline in the Americas and has an amazing route network of various different airlines, and people love that. People love flying in Colombia because it's civilized. It's generally very orderly and calm, and things tend to go on time unless the weather affects things. But compared to many other countries, clients often say to us they really enjoy flying in Colombia, whereas they don't at home. And that makes a lot of these places far more accessible than they were previously. I mean, the flights to Pitalito only started a few years ago, but that has changed everything with San Agustin, because it's about an hour and a half drive from Neiva, which some people still want to do because they want to go to Tatacoa. But Pitalito brings it a lot more conveniently to people on their itinerary. But Los Llanos Orientales is amazing. And another, you know, this diversity that the country has to be there, and then in Bogota, and then in the coffee region, and then in San Agustin or Cartagena. I mean,
and then,
yeah. If you have time, you have to come back. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah. I must admit, when we before I get into this little story, let me ask this question of you, Maria. How big is Colombia? Like, if you were to plop it on a US state or a Canadian state or province, what's the size? North, south, east, west-ish?
Population, more or less 57 million people.
Mm-hmm. And from a geographic size, though, is it as big as Texas? Is it big?
From a geographic,
I could answer in a European context.
Okay, European,
it's
that's
the
fine.
same size, roughly, as France, Spain, and Portugal together.
Okay. So it's sizable, but not crazy big. It's not a Brazil, naturally, of course.
No.
It's
funny when you
either Argentina, neither Mexico. I think we are the fifth population in Latin America.
It's quite funny when you're in Europe, people think it's vast, Colombia. But the first time I heard Colombia as being described as a relatively small country was when I was in Canada.
Yeah,
which of course it's all about
Yeah.
perspective and perception, isn't it? And if you're in Canada, of course, pretty much everywhere in the world is a small country.
Exactly. That's why I was asking for that North American comparison, because as an Australian as well, we always found it fascinating. You could drive across 2 or 3 countries in Europe in a day, whereas you'd be lucky to leave a state in a day in Australia, and the same in Canada and some states in the US. And the reason I was bringing that up because Brendan brought up the fact of flying around, because the Andes runs from the tip of Colombia all the way down to the very tip of Chile and Argentina. But my experience of driving is we were always sort of either side of the Andes when we're sort of coastal Ecuador, Peru, Chile even. But when we hit Colombia, we knew we were going to spend a lot of time driving up and down through the Andes, because it dissects and splits up. So the point of Brendan's point of flying around and having such a good network within makes getting around the country easy and quick as well. And I think, as you've heard from today, there's so much more than the sort of the big 3 or the big 4 sites to see. So on that note, though, so we did mention Bogota, coffee, Medellin, Cartagena. Are there any hidden gems within those areas that most people may not know about? Like, they'll go into Bogota and see the usual. I won't list them here, but are there anything within those areas that may catch people unawares that they should consider? Who wants that one? Let's go, Maria.
Maybe another hidden gem is bird watching. I think it's in the whole country, and we are by Cornell University that twice a year they do a concourse as the Global Bee Day, and we also year by year win the first place in number of species. So I think it's another hidden gem that this country has, the birds.
Oh.
Okay. And those can be seen in the cities too, by the way.
Right.
That's
in the city here.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yes.
People are sometimes asking our team in the office, where can we go in Colombia to see birds? And as they're talking, there's a hummingbird outside the window.
Right.
But I mean, Bogota is a fascinating city. We actually recently had a feedback from a client. He said it's a very misunderstood city, and he'd spent a week there, and the cultural aspect of Bogota is phenomenal. The food scene, it's one of the most eclectic food scenes in South America. There are fascinating neighborhoods that you can explore with a good guide to bring it all to life. Medellin as well. I mean, a lot of people in Medellin are interested in social transformation and some of the barriers where they have painted the houses and they've been made accessible by cable cars. But downtown Medellin is my favorite place in the city. It is fascinating, and there are so many little secrets and hidden restaurants and bars and cafes, tango bars. Medellin,
Tango.
many people don't know, but it has the largest tango culture outside of Argentina. Carlos Gardel, a huge tango star, died here in a plane crash in 1933, and as an homage to him, people started to play more tango, and it has become a huge part of the city's cultural scene. Cartagena has some wonderful secret little neighborhoods and nooks and crannies. Again, a massively interesting and eclectic food scene, and interesting educational institutions and foundations that we also bring people to. So yes, you shouldn't ignore these sort of classic destinations, because there are still lots of fascinating places within them to discover. Botanic gardens. I mean, Bogota has an amazing botanic garden, as does Medellin, encapsulating some of the beautiful nature and diversity that is here in Colombia.
Hidden gems amongst the most popular sites as well. By extension to your comments on Los Llanos, birding, wildlife in general, it goes without saying that Colombia would be a great destination for photographers, be it individuals or groups.
Absurdly photogenic. That's what somebody wrote about Colombia.
Absurdly, I like that. Absurdly photogenic. Yeah.
It is. It's just, I mean, a photographer will be in their element here.
So beyond the birding, which you both mentioned, what other wildlife can people expect to see, be it Los Llanos, be it the Andes, be it Pacific? So I think Maria mentioned earlier whales are migrating up and down the coast at certain periods of the time. Can you see big game anywhere? Do you have jaguar in Colombia? Do you have anaconda? Yes. Simple answer. Yes.
Yes, in the Amazon region. Jaguar, anaconda. Also butterflies.
Yes.
We are number one in butterflies. Yeah, so that's another niche that we are exploring to promote.
Okay,
and bears as well. We have
bears, the Andean bear.
Different bears. We have the condor, which is the national bird of Colombia.
The national bird.
Beautiful animal. And a huge array of reptiles, frogs and toads, and of course insects as well.
Right.
And they are new species are being.
And also our oceans.
Yes.
The San Andres, for example, is another hidden gem. I think is the second most biodiverse coral reef. It says biodiversity in the ocean is stunning.
Yeah, so turtles as well, sharks. We have a Malpeo, the island, which is where all the hammerhead sharks come and gather at certain times of the year, right out in the Pacific Ocean. It should be said that, talking about Colombia's size, Colombia's maritime territory is huge. It is, doubling the size of the country, if not more. It extends for a long way out into the Pacific and high up into the Caribbean Sea as well. So
people will probably know about some diving and snorkeling off Cartagena because it's a coastal city and stunning city. But you've just mentioned turtles, sharks, etc. So I would assume diving and or snorkeling opportunities are available in the Pacific region of Colombia?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. They are. I mean, we have the island of Gorgona, which is a stunning place to go diving, and you see all kinds
of Malpelo.
Malpelo,
it's another spot.
Okay, then.
And then, as Maria mentioned, San Andres, Providencia, which is a small island next to San Andres, is one of the top spots in the world for diving. It has sort of like an undersea cliff. And it is absolutely incredible. And it attracts divers from all over the world who go to Providencia to dive.
Okay. So let me ask some basic logistical questions for you both. Canadians and Americans getting to Colombia, regardless of where they may end up going. You mentioned, Brendan, earlier on, the Bogota is the main airport in. Access from North America into Colombia, what are the options, please? Let's go with Maria on that one.
The United States is our first country, so we have direct flights with almost 7 cities in the States. And from Canadians, we have also plenty of routes, seasonal and current active flights. So we are quite connected. It's close also. For example, Miami-Bogota is only a 3-hour flight. And for example, from Toronto is like 6.5 hours. So we are very close. It's another value thing of our country.
Yeah, that's important. Sorry, go on, Brendan. After you.
No, my cousin is arriving on the 15th of this month from San Francisco. She will fly to Houston, and then San Francisco, Houston, and then Houston directly to Medellin. And that has changed everything. The direct flights from Medellin to New York, to Miami, to Madrid, Spain. I know that's a different source market, but still. it's just showing you the connectivity. There are direct flights from Cartagena as well to the United States and Canada. So, and it's so close, but so exotic and different. I mean, and that is a real, fascinating thing for, I think, North Americans to really appreciate the complete exoticness and difference of Colombia. But it's, as Maria says, from Miami, it's 3 hours. Even less to Cartagena from Miami, and only like 5 hours from New York. So we have people now coming to Medellin for long weekends from New York and Miami. They'll come on a Thursday evening and stay till Monday.
Yeah, I was going to say, to get down to where I am in Mexico, we're south of Mexico on the Pacific coast in the state of Oaxaca, from Toronto. So if we look at the extreme distances, again, 3 hours from Miami, which is awesome if you're in the sort of southern part of the States. But if you're Toronto, New York, Seattle, Vancouver type thing, it's maybe an extra hour or so to get into Colombia than it is to get into Mexico and wherever you may end up. So for everyone out there who always looks to Mexico as that sort of getaway, look beyond it, and not just Colombia, well, that's who we're focusing on, but all of Central and South America. But you you've heard, one of the most diverse countries, if not the most diverse countries in the world, literally a hop, skip, and a jump away from East Coast, West Coast in the north. For Americans and Canadians, Maria, do they need visas to visit Colombia?
No.
Okay. Easy question,
No.
Easy answer. Brendan, when when a traveller is down there, a globetrotter is down there, when it comes to getting around in regards to spending, money, it's the Colombian peso, if I'm not mistaken. No, is it? I've forgotten. Peso?
Yes.
Peso, okay.
It is.
Yes. Credit cards, ATMs abound, so they don't necessarily need to have cash on them all the time?
No, absolutely not. Colombia, I think that's what surprises people. Many times they maybe arrive with a little bit of trepidation, but an awful lot of ignorance, and they are very pleasantly surprised by how sophisticated Colombia is. The ATMs here, they're much better than in other countries. They have a door, you go inside, they're air conditioned, you can do your cash withdrawal in private. Credit cards are widely accepted, as are debit cards. I would say that you should always carry a little bit of cash on you. People here now are using phones to pay for everything, and QR codes, and it's very advanced in that sense. The only thing I would suggest is always let your credit card company know before you travel that you're traveling, and that should apply to anywhere, so that they don't see some strange transaction from a country that doesn't normally appear on your transaction list. But otherwise,
and then have your card blocked and you can't do anything. I've gone through that once or twice. It's embarrassing, to say the least.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, when I questioned you on the sort of the normal first-time trip, Bogota, Coffee, Medellin, and then Cartagena, how many days would suffice to see those 4 sites reasonably comprehensively, Brendan?
Bogota, Cartagena, you probably really.
I know it's how long's a piece of string. I know.
Trip. I mean, a 10-day trip is ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say 3 nights in each destination, maybe 2 in Medellin. Possibly. It really depends on the interest of the clients, and that's something, Don, we're very tailor-made as are you at Goway. We'll receive a request from yourselves, and often it will say, look, people are very interested. These people are really interested in walking and nature, but they'd also like to see some art galleries and museums, and they want to finish in Cartagena. So that gives us a template, and what we can do is maybe expand their time in the coffee region where they can walk. But also we will introduce other destinations. As Maria was saying, we want to try and expand that first-time experience. So we will say, well, how about Los Llanos Orientales? We've just started a new program in Córdoba and Sucre, a beautiful part of Colombia, the wetlands, and fascinating for bird life and nature. And walking. And so those are things we will slip into the conversation if they logistically make sense. But I think, you can do it in a week, but maybe just 3 destinations then. You'd have to maybe take out Medellin and say, well, you're flying into Bogota, you do the coffee region, then Cartagena. So it's not to be too rushed.
Yeah.
But going back to the logistics, it's quick to fly. Flying from Bogota to Pereira is 50 minutes less, sometimes half an hour. It depends on if the wind is behind your tail. Medellin as well, it's, a 40-minute flight from Bogota. The Amazon is only an hour and a half on a flight. And Bogota Airport is amazing. You can change planes so easily. You get off at one level and just go up to the next and you're there. It's not a complicated airport at all.
If an agent was able to convince, I don't want to say able to convince, if an agent shows the other areas of Colombia to a client, they go, wow, Los Llanos, I didn't know about that, San Agustin. If they combine 2 or 3 hidden gem areas, does that change itinerary length, or can you still get, I guess what I'm asking is, be it the highlights or the main site or the hidden gems, does 10 days allow you to experience either or in a comfortable, reasonably comprehensive way? Again, always come back for a second or third trip, but if someone is looking to do the unknown, the different, is 10 days still enough for them to get around and do it all?
Not all, but some of it.
Well, yes.
I mean, you could combine
Bad choice
Bogota,
of words, yeah.
Los Llanos, and San Agustin, for example.
Right.
That would be possible in a sort of 10-day itinerary.
Okay.
You could combine Medellin, the Pacific coast and the coffee region, and Bogota as well. It all depends as well. You have to be careful whether the Pacific region is one of the wettest places on the planet. So we always advise people that planes can be delayed coming out to the Pacific coast, as they can the Amazon, because of the heavy rains. So we always advise people not, to maybe overnight in Medellin, not to have an international connection. Flying out of the Amazon and you're flying back to the US that same day can be a little bit risky. So you need to build in, depending on the location, some of those comfort, buffer times so that people don't miss connecting flights and things.
Right. Yep. So I guess my point was that if an agent or a client wants to do the hidden gems of Colombia, it's not going to overly affect them. Like, they're not going to, that's the best way to voice this. It doesn't make a huge change to time commitments. They can still experience it, even though they're going outside the norm, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Maria, is there anything that you would want to tell the travel advisors out there, or their clients who may be listening, that they should know about? Like, I know we've discussed a lot today, but is there anything else that maybe that you'd like to tell the travel advisors out there to know about Colombia?
Maybe the events that we are going to have as ProColombia. Mm-hmm. We have next year the Colombia Travel Mart. The last week of February is here in Bogota, and we would like to have Canadian agents invited. We launched yesterday that event. So it's a huge event that takes place in a big fair, the biggest in Colombia, that it's a Vitrina Turística de Nato. So prepare all this, the whole year for this event. And also we have our workshop specific for Canadian market that will be held also in the first part of the next year. And we will be interested in, of course, having the agent channel in there. And that will be in Canada, not in Colombia. It's a roadshow in Toronto, Quebec, and Montreal. And that we promptly will be launching that event. So that's the two parts that I would like to remark.
Is ProColombia coming to the US in any form or fashion next year? Do you know?
Next year, yes, of course. And this year we will be at the USTOA event. That is, of course, very important for us. First week of December, and we are preparing ourselves to have a big presentation of the destiny, and also be with the companies that are members of the USTOA, the Colombian companies. And we are also working with the luxury memberships like Signature, Virtuoso. We are going to be in more events of that type of luxury niche. Also, we will have our workshop next year. I don't know yet the month. Maybe it will be at the second quarter of the year. Also specific for the Canadian, for the States market.
Okay.
For the US.
Brendan, a question. Well, actually, first things first. So, agents out there, we are part of Signature. You're a preferred partner with us, so that's a good thing to know because they're working with ProColombia as well. Brendan, we have a groups department here. It's one of the largest group departments in North America. I would assume that you are, and in turn, Colombia are more than capable to handle anything from conferences through, again, maybe a photography group or a weaving group or bird watching group, etc. So the infrastructure is there to handle groups, I would assume, throughout Colombia.
Absolutely. We have a dedicated groups department. We also have a dedicated MICE team as well, who works with incentives and corporate events. And yes, totally. We do handle a number of groups. They tend to be smaller group sizes, so maybe 20, 15, 20, 30, and very specialized at times. We actually have a photographic group that comes every year. Yes, bird watching. We have walking groups. People interested in gastronomy as well, which is a big surprise for many people coming to Colombia because, Colombian food doesn't have the world sort of recognition as does Mexican food or Peruvian food or Italian or French. And so people are not sure what to expect. And it's another very lovely surprise when they come here, the variety of food, the fruits and the amazing fruits that you don't see anywhere else in the world, and vegetables and very fresh and organic as well. But just to say to agents who, don't be scared of selling in Colombia, it always exceeds expectations. We have a terrible problem. People just love Colombia. They really do, and going back to what I said before, Colombians love foreigners. They're not xenophobic people. They are very keen to know foreigners and have people in their country. People do arrive with a little bit of trepidation and a lot of ignorance. And so within literally stepping off the plane and seeing our incredibly well-functioning, modern, efficient airport in Bogota to, how easy it is to get money out, the variety of restaurants, the diversity, the warmth, the welcomeness of the people, they just become intoxicated like I did 20 years ago. And they come back and they have a lovely time. It doesn't mean to say that, there are some hotels they may not have been so keen on, or maybe a certain destination didn't really tick the box. But overall, their experience in Colombia is always better than expected. And I don't think you can ask for anything more with any product that you can sell in the world, that it always exceeds expectations, and it does.
Normally, I do a wrap up at the end of our podcast, but I think Brendan just did it for me. It was it was beautifully expressed. There's not much more to say other than I agree wholeheartedly. It was one of my favorite countries driving through South America. It was easily one of the most welcoming. Let me finish this little story. When we used to drive through Latin America, for the most part, we would pull over and camp at night. We called it a bush camp. One of the drawbacks of going through Colombia is, particularly through the Andes, there's very little flat land to pull over and park. And for the most part, it was farmland. So literally the road, the Pan American Highway, either side was fenced off farmland. And it was late one night. We couldn't find anywhere to pull over. So I literally just pulled into the front yard of a farm and said, can we camp in your front paddock type thing? And they said, of course you can. No problems. And then as we were setting up, they invited us in to use their bathroom facilities, and then they invited some of us in for dinner that night. So it was just amazing hospitality, and I always flip the story around. Imagine if you're sitting in your lounge room in Toronto and a big truck of 25 Colombians roll up. They don't speak any English, but they sort of, through broken English, ask if they can camp in your front yard. Do you think you'd actually do it? Probably not. But in Colombia, it was done without any second thought. The hospitality was astounding, and that was just emblematic of the entire country. It was welcoming, safe, even back then. So even now, it's like, as Brendan and Maria have said, without question, there should be no trepidation in visiting the country. You've heard that it is diverse as can be. culturally, geographically, wildlife, everything. It's all you could ask for, and it's a very short trip away from, up on the border, Toronto, Vancouver, Seattle, New York area, all the way down to Miami, Houston, etc. So it's at your doorstep waiting to be discovered, and there is much more than the usual big sites. Please explore Colombia. It is fantastic. On that note, Maria, I'd like to thank you for your time. Brendan, as always, really good talking to you. It's wonderful how in love you are with the country, and I think that's enough to excite people to get down there. And as always, to our travel partners out there, we always appreciate your time. We know it's a chunk of your day to listen to us, but we do appreciate the fact that you are, and we really hope we've inspired you and that your next thought when it comes to South America, top of the list, will be Colombia. Thanks, Brendan, and gracias, Maria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Hey!